my other favorite thing about school meal programs. We are never satisfied. We are always looking to do things. Yeah, we are always hungry and always looking to do things better, looking for trends and looking for ways to serve our students better.
That was like, oh man, like the podcast is working because it's all about just sharing inspiration and innovation, because some districts may have some things figured out and some districts want to get to that point, and now they can all work together.
We just looked and said, you know what, we were doing this, but let's go ahead and share our story and maybe give some ideas on what worked for us, because really it's not that difficult. It really isn't, but to an operator that doesn't understand, it can look very difficult. Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you back to the Next Up podcast. I am Shani Hall, your host. I'm here with Marlon and Jenna for a great episode on what's happening in student nutrition.
And obviously, Shani's not the host, but she has been on the podcast more than anybody else, I think, 3 times. So you've been on episode or season 3, 4, and 5. This is season 5 now. So you are one of our returning superstars, and we appreciate you so much.
Well,
so
I appreciate you having me, and I'm ready to take over when you're out.
Oh, perfect. That's great. Well, let's go ahead and get some introductions. So let's start with Jenna. Jenna, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here.
Anytime.
Yeah, so I'm here with Action for Healthy Kids, and we're very excited to be here to talk about our Healthy Meals Incentives Initiative. And Action for Healthy Kids, along with RMC Health and Chef Ann Foundation, have a cooperative agreement with USDA to implement the Healthy Meals Incentives Initiative.
So what exactly is a Healthy Meals Incentive Initiative?
Well, we kicked it off in 2023, and the first aspect was a grant-making program. And so we actually granted nearly $30 million to over 264 small and rural school food authorities. And that was the first bang. And then we turned it over right after that, and we implemented our Recognition Awards program, which is, of course, what we're here to talk about today.
That's awesome. And just real quick, you have some experience in school food as an operator too, right? You want to kind of chat about that?
Yeah, of course. I spent 16 years in Polk County Public Schools, which is the neighbor to Shani's district in Hillsborough, where I actually live, and really loved school meal programs. That was my only career for 16 years, and, worked my way up to school nutrition director there, and then moved away from that, and now I do consulting and came alongside Action for Healthy Kids for this cooperative agreement to work on that with them.
That's cool. And when you were at Polk, when you first got hired there, did you come on board as like a dietetic intern first, a supervisor, or what?
I actually got my start as a dietetic intern at the State Department in Florida. That's what brought me to Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm from Illinois. The Healthy Meals and Incentives is really, the grant-making program for small and rural districts is near and dear to my heart because I grew up in a very small rural town in Illinois, and then came to Florida to do my dietetic internship with the State Department. And then not long after that, Polk County needed a dietitian, and I was their first registered dietitian. They had nutritionist, but I was the first registered dietitian to come on board. So that was cool. Great. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you met Caitlin Lazarski at the state of Florida when you were dietetic interns?
Yes, we were interns together.
Shout out to Caitlin.
Hi, Caitlin.
It's so funny. I was up there not too long ago. We were filming something in one of her school districts. Oh, it was her back to school meeting actually. And I don't know how your name came up, but she was like, "Hey, so do you know?" And I was like, "Jenna?" Like, I don't even know like why I said your name or guessed your name, but something came up with Florida, and she was describing you, and I was like, "Oh, it's got to be Jenna." So it's so wild how we're states and states apart. But
I know.
A small circle.
Well, it's like the 7 degrees of Marlon. Everybody knows Marlon. There's usually some connection there. And her and I, they only do 2 interns at a time, and so her and I did the program together, and she was amazing. She's doing amazing things now, too.
Yeah, she's awesome. So she actually wants to come down and do a podcast, too, where I'm going to go to her. But it would be cool if you were included in that as well.
That would be great.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Shani, this is your 3rd introduction, but, there may be people out there that don't know who you are. So do you want to kind of give your backstory?
Sure. I'm Shani Hall, General Manager with Hillsborough County Student Nutrition Services. And I've been with this district in this role since 2019. Prior to that, I worked for the State Department in Georgia and also as part of Cobb County Student Nutrition Program in Atlanta. And before that, I was in the Air Force. So that's kind of my background. But
I love that fun fact about you being in the Air Force. That's so cool to me. Yeah.
I do too. I really loved your last podcast where you went into that. I thought that was fabulous.
Yeah. I mean, until the last podcast, I never really gave any serious thought to there being registered dietitians serving in the armed forces. But I mean, duh, like there has to be.
yeah, it was great. I was an intern with the Air Force when I was in my dietetic intern. And my one regret on that is that at the time, hopefully it's different now, but at the time they did not include school nutrition as a part of the program. So I really did not know that there was a career path in school nutrition until much later. And so that was something I wish I had been introduced to before.
Yeah. What was more difficult, being a dietitian for the Air Force or in a school district?
School district.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But what's more
Yeah.
rewarding?
School district.
Yeah. that's
I
kinda
mean,
what
there's
figured.
never the same day twice, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the only job I've ever had where I've never had the same day twice.
That's cool.
When you say that, that's
I would
true.
say that's 100% accurate. That was,
Yeah.
and then in fact, that was my favorite part of school meal operations as well. You never know what you were going to get to do. And many times really awesome things, sometimes lots of challenges, but also just really exciting things. And it was our program to play with and get innovative with. And so we could be creative and always try new things. And you never know what we would come up with from year to year.
I love the fact that you said innovative because so many people think that school nutrition isn't innovative, but you guys are incredibly innovative. Incredibly. So what was it like coming from a state department and then going to a school district?
I felt like it was a real advantage because even though I was an intern, they really let us see the inner workings of what it means to operate school meal programs at the state level. And we got to go out on administrative reviews, and an administrative review was never scary for me. You know, that was usually what freaked everybody out. And I just felt like I had the inside edge and I knew what to expect. And I knew that they were there really to help districts get better. And so I just felt like it was just a true advantage to see things from that side of it. And it was, it was really the only reason I probably ended up in school meal programs too, because prior to that, I knew I wanted to work with kids. But school meals were really not on my radar until I got to see behind the scenes and see what they had to offer. So
Cool.
Yeah.
So for those who may not know what a AR is, or administrative review, can one of you guys just kind of go through what that process looks like and then why we do it?
go for it, Shani. You just successfully went through one. So.
So an administrative review is required by the USDA for all states and sponsors who operate child nutrition programs. And it's really just because it's a federally funded program, it's a way to make sure that the federal funds are being spent appropriately. So they look and make sure that the meals are reimbursable, that what we're offering the students meets the federal guidelines. They're looking at our use of money. They look very specifically at the purchases that are all needing to be allowable. Our procurement process, they look very specifically at the procurement process to make sure that there's fair and open competition. They look at eligibility processes to make sure that all students that are eligible for benefits are getting those benefits fairly. It's very comprehensive, and I agree with Jenna. I didn't know we had that in common, that we both worked for the State Department and then went into. I started in programs, then went to the department, then went programs. But I agree with her that it really just makes you understand the rules better. At the State Department, you really get into the rules, and at the sponsor level, you're implementing those rules, but you don't understand the rules, I think, as well. And going through the AR process as a reviewer versus as somebody being reviewed, it really helps you understand that the USDA is not trying to be a gotcha. They just want to make sure that the federal funds are spent appropriately.
Yeah, as they should. Mm-hmm. And speaking of the USDA and funds and money and all that, that's kind of why we're here today. So you were just awarded 2 grants, right?
2 awards. Yes.
2 awards. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome awards. As part of the Action for Healthy Kids incentive awards for being breakfast and lunch trailblazers. Yes.
So what did it take to earn that achievement?
So these awards, and Jenna can speak probably a little more to the comprehensive what was required, but they were a way to help districts implement the incoming changes to the child meal program, specifically like at breakfast, the reduction of sugars that we saw in the proposal a couple of years ago, that it was going to be coming down. And then also for the lunch, the hardest thing has always been the reduction in sodium. So it is hard for districts to, we've come so far since the first 2012 humongous change in meal programs as part of the 2010 Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act. There was a lot of change we had to incorporate then, with whole grains and elimination of trans fats and reduction of sodium over a time period. And that was like a major whirlwind for everyone, including industry and everything. So these next changes were kind of a continuation of that, but as well as a reflection of the science that we're seeing that sugar needs to be a bigger focus. When you look at health outcomes, I think for many years it was really fat, and now we're seeing in the research that sugar is actually just as or more maybe important than reduction of fat. So these sugar guidelines are very important to make for the nation's children and the health outcomes, but they're difficult because the industry went through such major change with the 2012 changes that to ask industry to reformulate again, that's a big step. So when we saw that coming, we started to implement some of those changes then. And even though it was a proposed change, even though it wasn't for sure, we were following the science too, and just felt like, this is the right thing to do. And so when the award came out, it was we just looked and said, you know what, we were doing this, but let's go ahead and share our story and maybe give some ideas on what worked for us, because really it's not that difficult. It really isn't, but to an operator that doesn't understand, it can look very difficult. That makes sense?
Oh, yeah. Were there
Yeah.
any specific stories that you shared that you think helped you get the award?
Well, I think Hillsborough is lucky in that we're very large. We have a lot of buying power. And so relationships with vendors are very important for us for other districts, because we can say to the manufacturers, look, and specifically we were looking at cereals, for example, that how do you reduce your cereals to 6 grams of sugar? And so 2 years ago, we were reaching out to, our brokers who dealt with Kellogg's, General Mills, and all the others, and saying, look, we're going to go ahead and say to you, we need you to reformulate, because whether or not this goes through, we stand by this decision and we want to only offer cereals that meet this criteria. So then we could tell other districts, hey, we're asking for this, you ask for this. And they knew that we weren't going to buy anything that didn't meet it. So then they were like, okay, well, I guess we have to reformulate then.
Yeah, they're in business to make money. If you're not going to buy it, then they're not going to make any money, right?
And therefore, it's available now. But it wasn't available then. But it's available now. So when it's time for the bids to come around for other districts, they should know that there are products. You don't have to go looking for replacement breakfast ideas, because that's hard. Breakfast is hard, and Jenna knows this too. Breakfast is hard because you don't have a breakfast time. They don't sit down to eat in your cafeteria all the time. Sometimes they're getting it from a cart. Sometimes they're eating it on the way to class. You can't come up with a ton of breakfast ideas because you're offering it in so many different ways. And so you have to kind of go with the favorites, and you have to go with things that are easy to eat and things that kids are going to choose, because they often could miss it too. They're like, oh, I don't like what you have, so I'm just going to walk away. So that's really, it comes down to products. And flavored milk was the other one. We had already gone to unflavored milk at breakfast in 2019. And so that was something that actually parents had been saying. They had been requesting that. Like, we don't want to, even if it's low sugar, I think their perception from parents is chocolate milk is sugary. Yeah. And so that was just something we'd already done. So that was just kind of like sharing that we had done that.
Neat. So Jenna, why was the Trailblazer Award important to Active for Healthy Kids to get out?
Yeah, when we were really looking at implementing the recognition awards and talking about in the early days of the recognition awards, trying to talk about how we would market them to districts and what they really meant and the purpose of them, it really was all about celebrating the change makers, the trailblazers. That's why we have these names that really talk about innovation and trailblazing, because as we talked about earlier, just because you innovate doesn't mean what you were doing before was bad. And so we really worked on our wording to talk about the fact that we wanted to celebrate the hard work that schools across the country were doing to make meals more fresh, more delicious, more nutritious. It doesn't mean they were bad before. It just means they're innovating and constantly changing. That's my other favorite thing about school meal programs. We are never satisfied. We are always looking to do
Always
things.
hungry.
Yeah, we are always hungry and always looking to do things better, looking for trends and looking for ways to serve our students better. And so these awards, you might be making small changes or big changes. There's an award for everybody. We have several different categories. The Trailblazer Awards really are those that are looking at the nutrition aspects of breakfast and lunch. So as Shani mentioned, lowering sodium at lunch and lowering sugar at breakfast. And then we have several innovation awards that really look at different ways of prepping meals, moving more to scratch cooking, implementing local foods and things like that. What I love about what Hillsborough did was they really focused on adding in fresh, and that really helps with sugar and sodium. So fresh fruits and vegetables and preparing them in ways that don't require added sugar and sodium can go a really long way. Taking away the flavored milk is another great strategy. So some strategies are small but really impactful with the nutrition that you're giving to students to fuel their day.
Do you think that that students' palates are being trained at a younger age to be accustomed to healthier foods now?
I really feel like school meals plays a big part in that, because you never know what they're getting at home and what the meals might look like at home. Everybody, eats differently at their house, but many of our students get the majority of their nutrition at school. And I remember, thinking back on kids that might have been in kindergarten, particularly when I decided to move away from the school district. I'd been there for 16 years, and it dawned on me that I had seen some kiddos from kindergarten all the way through high school. And we definitely had an easier time introducing healthier meals and healthier choices towards the end of my career there than in the beginning. And so I knew that was because they had seen that over the course of their time in schools, and they had learned how to eat from us. And that was a really cool realization.
Yeah, teaching kids how to eat. I was just thinking about I used to only drink, I never drank water as a kid growing up. And sorry, Mom, my mom's an RD, but I never drank water. And it's always juices, like juice from concentrate, like the Minute Maid juice in the big jugs, whatever. And it wasn't until I got married and my wife was like, "Why are you always drinking juice? Like, that's horrible for you, right?" And I was like, I don't like water. I want juice. And it's so sweet. But I eventually cut it out. And then now, I cannot drink juice because it's just way too sweet for me. I'm just thinking about how kids' palates can get trained. I mean, if I could get trained in my 30s, and a kid's palate could get trained when they're, less than 10, right?
Yeah.
And then as they grow up, they want healthier foods. So do you get your produce locally at Hillsborough?
We do as much local as we can. So
Okay.
we have one distributor. Since we're such a big district, we need to make sure we have one distributor. But one way that we have really focused on not only reducing the sodium through healthy foods, but also influencing our community partners with our local farmers, and also educating our students on where the food comes from, is making partnerships with farmers in the state of Florida and trying to get those local foods into all of our schools. That's something that we've been working on for a couple of years now. And as Jenna mentioned, that was a way that we also, we reduced the sodium at our lunch, because we were offering fresh fruits and vegetables every day, but we were kind of making it up to the manager to decide how often they would be doing certain products, such as entree salads, for example. That was something we encouraged them to do it, but we didn't require them to do it. But that was something that we incorporated was, in the past 2 years. And I think when we've talked in previous podcasts just about the supply chain difficulties we've had over the years, but we really have been trying to enhance our menu offerings for all groups, all age groups, and doing more innovative entree salads that were incorporating more fresh fruits and vegetables in them. And so that was something that we did. And then looking at the options to meet our vegetable subgroups and trying to get more fresh on the plate, because fresh is always, when it's not processed, you've already just reduced your sodium, right? And just like you're saying about, can you influence kids' choices? I think that's one of the major things moms can do and school nutrition programs to do is offer it more. The more it's offered, the more chance they're going to take it, and then the more chance they're going to be used to taking it. So that was something that I'm real proud of, that it was a push. You know, when we didn't have a lot of staff, it was difficult to say, you know, I expect that there's going to be more options. You know, when they're running on just a few people, that's hard to do. That's hard to cut up the fruits and vegetables in portions that a kid can eat. You know, that's hard.
Yeah.
But now we have staff, we have product, we have better relationships with more farmers, and so there's really no reason not to. And so we are seeing that. We're doing it. The kids are seeing it more often. I hope that we are influencing their choices. I do think it's difficult because the world surrounds them with advertisements and just what's available to them outside of school. But I agree with Jenna that things that I see is when kids will say to me, you know, I notice you don't have juice every day. Why is that? And then I'll tell them, well, the reason is because it's much more healthy to get your vitamins and your nutrients from the actual fruit or vegetable, and that's why we have more of them there. Juice is not giving you that in just a couple of sips. You're done with it, and then you're wanting something else that's a little more sweet. And so then we've had students come to our food show, which we might talk about our food show, and they'll say to me, I know we don't have juice. I know you've already told us why. But so instead I'm drinking milk. Before I would never have had milk before. I always had the juice, but now I'm drinking milk. And then I feel like, oh, that's a win because kids aren't drinking enough milk anyway. So if they're making that switch, then that's positive.
So what are some of the things that you guys do to educate the parents and students?
Well, I mean, that's what we try to do on the line is try to have, it's very difficult, to educate kids during the service time other than with promotional materials on the line. We do try to tell them about our farms that we're getting. We do have a harvest of the month every month where we share information, nutritional information about a certain Florida Fresh item that we're featuring. But then it's whenever we're trying to do a promotion about school meals, like there's National School Lunch Week, there's School Breakfast Week coming up, and we always try to incorporate a survey into the kids to find out how they feel about our meals. And at that point, we try to give them something that says, here's why our meals are nutritious. And when we do our food show and we invite elementary and secondary students, different ones throughout the district every year, then we really get into, here's why we do what we do. Here's why it's important for you to, know about why our food might taste different than what you're looking for. And it's amazing to me, this last food show, the elementary students knew so much more than the middle. They already knew. They were asking, they noticed the more diverse menu options that we'd added. We had some saying, we notice you're doing more allergy friendly. When will you be doing more allergy friendly? Where the middle was just like, why does this product not taste the same as the product outside? So I do think we're making, kids are getting smarter anyway, but they were noticing things we were doing, which was really cool.
I mean, Jenna, like when you were a kid, did you care about allergens and nutrition in your meals? Because I definitely didn't.
I'm certain I did not think
I know
about those things.
But there's so many more, right? And so this one student that was asking specifically about like gluten-free options, like she said, I know that you have this item that's gluten-free and this item that's gluten-free. And so we were like, wow, it's amazing that you know that. She goes, well, my brother is gluten and dairy-free, and so I'm looking out for him. So I tell him what to get.
Wow.
And I watch the menus.
That's
And
awesome.
She was in 4th or 5th grade because those were the grades that were there that day. So I was
You should
pretty,
make her a student ambassador or something.
right. Me too. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So how many kids were at your food show this past time? Because I went to one, gosh, it must have been like 8 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of kids
There
that go.
are. We had 75 secondary kids, and then on the elementary day we had 135.
Gosh, that is cool. So what are some of the new dishes you guys are showcasing?
Well, we were trying a bunch of different ones. And one thing that we definitely do is we take this feedback and incorporate it into the menu for next year. So I don't want to say all these items are going to be on the menu because we're still analyzing and all of that. But I will tell you some of the things that we had on there. We had a Cajun chicken pasta, which we are also featuring in our Black History Month menu. And that one rated very high. We had an employee submitted recipe contest winner. That was a Taco-licious pasta.
Ooh.
We had 2 ramen noodle dishes.
Okay.
One that was vegan and one that was not. We did a barbecue turkey hoagie. We did, we were looking for different biscuits, and that's a hard one with sodium, by the way.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to find a whole grain biscuit, which was about killed everybody in 2012, and then to lower the sodium on that. So we were trying some low sodium biscuits and trying to think of some other things. We had a Korean meatball, and so really cool stuff.
That is diverse.
It was.
You're all over the globe.
That's what we're trying to do. That was something the kids were noticing and asking for.
Yeah.
Actually.
Man, kids today are so spoiled. Like I didn't have
know,
all
right?
this stuff to eat whenever I was a high schooler. That's awesome.
I'm always telling my boss, who whenever he introduces me for things, he's like, you know, the lady that does the chicken nuggets and the pizza. And I always roll my eyes. And finally, I was at a meeting recently, and he said, okay, I know I've always introduced Shani as the chicken nuggets and the pizza, but I
Yeah.
have to finally give in and say, okay, she's doing a whole lot more. They're doing a whole lot more
Whole
for our
lot more.
students.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. So Jenna, what does Action for Healthy Kids do in terms of like collecting data and sharing all this innovation and inspiration that you're getting from direct districts like Hillsborough?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because that is a key component of the initiative is story collection. And as I said earlier, even though you might feel like the change you're making is small, to someone else who's looking to do the same thing and to see someone being successful with it, it speaks volumes. And beyond that, I know you do a lot of work trying to redefine what school meals looks like. And these stories that we're collecting, that's our effort in doing the same, making sure that everybody, even outside the K-12 world, understands not just the hard work, but the amazing meals that are being served in schools. And, that we're just uplifting those stories and celebrating the hard work that we know is happening.
Yeah, I think one of the best compliments I've received happened at ANC this past year, and it was about Sean Sacco. You guys know Sean, right? So multiple people actually approached me and said they watched the episode with Sean up in his district and thanked me for it. And I was like, oh, well, like what stuck out to you about this episode? And they were like, I had no idea that the things that Sean is doing in his district is possible. I didn't know Sean until I watched your podcast. And then now I know how to get a hold of Sean so I can pick his brain so I can do similar things like that in my district. And that was like, oh man, like the podcast is working because it's all about just sharing inspiration and innovation, because some districts may have some things figured out and some districts want to get to that point, and now they can all work together because school districts aren't competing. Like we're all just trying, or you guys are all just trying to feed kids, and you're happy to share information. And that was just like, that was a cool moment for me to see that it was actually working. And then partnering with Action for Healthy Kids has been absolutely amazing too, because now I get to join with you in that fight because I can't do it alone. Like I need help from everybody to help change the perception of school meals. And you are definitely doing that in your district. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I am so appreciative. Action for Healthy Kids has been around for, many years.
Yes.
But one, smart snacks education being one of the major ones, because that's something the Smart Snacks in Schools rules about what can be sold to students during the school day, apart from the school nutrition program in many cases. It's a la carte items, but it's also you know, fundraising and school stores and things that student nutrition wouldn't have, wouldn't be making the decision to, you know, what to put in the machines or whatever. So Action for Healthy Kids, I interact with their material all the time because they are so helpful to share how to easily find products that meet the Smart Snacks guidelines, like the calculator, how to inform PTA or other groups that, you know, would need to know this information. It's nice to have another organization out there that's sharing the importance of why we have these rules, but also how can other partners, you know, implement them safely.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So are the is all the learning materials like on the website? How do you in PDFs? Like how do you guys?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for talking about how those things have been helpful for you. So, at Action for Healthy Kids, the Healthy Meals incentives really gave us a chance to shine a light on school meals. But really, our approach is the whole child model. And so, we do a lot with family school partnerships and working with districts to help them collaborate across departments, because oftentimes that's a challenge. And so, we really are not just focused on nutrition. We're talking about physical activity, social, emotional wellness, and really everything it takes to support students during the school day and help those that are working with them every day in the school system. And so we have lots of different types of programs. We have free resources definitely that are on our website. We do different grants over the years. We have a National School District Wellness Council that helps people come together like a community of practice and really learn from each other in how to create healthy schools and, you know, really impact the wellness in the schools and just beyond school meals. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So I'm not gonna talk to you about this now, but we need to connect off camera because we're creating a space in our publication, our digizine called Served, where it's nothing but available grants for school districts. Because I hear from a lot of people like hey, how can I get an equipment grant or a grant for this, grant for that? And I haven't really seen like one central location just to go and find grants. And I would love to work with you guys on making something like that, so districts can go out there and get money and innovate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is great to partner with organizations because you have to sort of get through the clutter, especially on social media. It's so hard to get the message across. Sometimes we feel like we're repeating ourselves over and over again or saturating things. But at the end of the day, it's hard to get through the clutter. And so when multiple organizations are highlighting each other and lifting up the same message, it can get through and it can really speak to more people.
Yeah, absolutely. Combined network influencing is what we like to call it. So what was the second award that you got?
The second award was our lunch award.
Okay.
So in the lunch award, as we've alluded to the increasing the fresh fruits and vegetables. Another big aspect that what we were trying to do, and this is a good message for directors out there, program operators that, you know, don't know where to start. Sometimes you just have to find what I call the low-hanging fruit. You know, it is fruit, but
no pun intended.
No pun intended. But one big one for us was using tahini seasoning instead of ranch dressing with some things that we were just automatically putting with ranch dressing, like cucumber slices, for example. We would always in the past have given them, because they like to dip, we call them cucumber dippers, and then you give them that. But we were able to reduce the sodium by over 100 milligrams by just going to the tahini seasoning, which we tried last year, putting it up against the ranch just to see if it would be palatable. And it was. And we've used it actually on lots of things, like sweet things too, like watermelon and other things that you can use. But we decided we would get away from the ranch with the cucumbers and just go to that. And that was like a low-hanging fruit, because that was all we did. It was acceptable. The kids liked it that way. And over the course of the week, which is how you have to, you know, figure what your sodium level is, that brought it down. That in combination with increasing the entree salads, increasing the fresh fruits and vegetables, and getting away from, you know, using as many frozen and canned items in our recipes was a big jump down. And then we also, and thankfully there are lots of manufacturers now of salt-free seasonings. So then we started, you know, incorporating salt-free seasonings and just moving away from our other seasonings that had sodium in them and finding a flavor profile that was just as good. Because, we've been working on that for years, trying to find different seasonings, but the incorporation now of manufacturer blends, and especially if districts don't have a chef on staff, those blends often come with recipes already. And so those are things you can try with your students and just switch out the blend. And those are not difficult. They're really not. The hardest part is probably procuring it, just making sure that your distributor can carry it for you, can get it in for you. So those are not difficult things. They really aren't. And that's how we'd like to share with other districts that you can do. Is look at what you can do easily. That ranch, that change from ranch, because everybody loves ranch so much. If you can find something to reduce the ranch, you can reduce your sodium easy.
I have to admit, I'm kind of shocked by that one. So tahini sauce on cucumbers.
Tahini seasoning. So it's like a sprinkle seasoning, and you get them in these little packs. And once the kids tried it, something new.
Yeah.
So they didn't see it at first. They didn't understand. Once they try it, they're like, ooh, that's good. Even parents say, because the kids will ask for it at home.
Yeah.
Parents will say to me, now I have to buy the tahini seasoning, but it's really good. I tried it myself. I started putting it on my corn. I started putting it on things that I would have put like butter on, which now we're putting tahini seasoning. So, and it's not the only seasoning out there, but it does come in these convenient little packs that you can just put with the cucumbers.
What if I could just sprinkle it like all over my salad?
Yes,
And try
absolutely.
that. Have you tried that before?
I haven't tried it on salad. It's really good on mango.
Yeah.
On mango?
Watermelon.
Yes,
I
pineapple.
love it on- yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's interesting seeing how popular these seasonings are becoming, like tahini. And I think there's two manufacturers that I've spoken to recently and they're just making seasonings for K-12 now because of the new sodium guidelines. And I love seeing you guys and manufacturers just getting more innovative again with the way they're creating these recipes and pulling out sodium and adding in more spices like tahini. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I want to speak to something else that came out of our food show, because that was something we really noticed. The kids were very specific. Now, we asked them at the food show, we bring them all together and we say, okay, you're actually our employees today. So you're not just here to taste food. You have to work, because you have to taste the food, and then you have to tell us if you liked the food, and then you have to tell us why.
Yeah.
And so we really are asking them to do more than just say yes or no. And some are better than others at that. But we bring them in together, which was kind of a challenge with 135 elementary, I won't lie. But with the smaller group, we were able to really get into more question and answer. And it really was about the flavor this year. It was about, we had one item that was called cherry blossom chicken that we were trying with a yellow rice. And this became, during the secondary day, quite a contentious item for discussion, because there was one person who said, I think it would be good with white rice, which is a challenge because whole grain. But then another one was like, I respectfully disagree. I thought it was great with the yellow rice, but I really thought it could use a little more of this flavor. And then that went to another one. And it went down to where one student said, I really didn't like it at all. And then a bunch of kids raised their hand. They said, we all liked it. Don't cut it because of that one comment. But then we went into like the Cajun chicken pasta. That was one of the top ones. It was really, they wanted flavor. They didn't necessarily want spicy flavor, because they didn't want overly spicy. But there were some items that just didn't, like, for example, one of our ramen dishes, and this is a biggie. I was nervous about ramen because these kids might be making their own ramen out of the packs, right? Using the flavor packs. And so it was going to be iffy anyway, but there were some that were just like, I wanted to like it looked good, but it just didn't taste like mine at home.
It's missing all that sodium, that's why.
Sodium, right? Exactly. And I was trying to tell them, we have stricter guidelines than what you're buying at home, but we were hoping you would give it a try. But there would be another student who never had it at home, and they were like, I liked it. I really thought it was good. And it's a whole grain noodle, which was another change too, So it was double whammy. Low sodium plus whole grain noodle. How was it going to go? And, there's a lot of kids out there who eat ramen at home, I think, because that's how it scored. I wanted it to be higher than it was, but it seemed like the kids who'd never had ramen were much more accepting of it.
Yeah. Have you thought about putting anything like protein with it or something with it? Spice, maybe some tahini. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, we were trying all sorts of things, but I think we're definitely not at a place where we're good with it as it is. We did have some with meat in it, and then some without, but it's that broth. It's the broth, really. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny. My son is like the pickiest eater ever. Like he grew up only wanting to eat hot dogs. And that's it. But he went to his friend's house recently and discovered ramen, and now it's like all he wants to eat is ramen. When he goes to his friend's house, he's going there to eat ramen, not to hang out with his friends or play video games or go outside. It's the weirdest thing.
And it's good.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of us ate it in college. I did.
Yeah, me too. Like I ate it growing up too.
Right.
Yeah, but it definitely had way more sodium and
Oh.
stuff in it.
You can't
wasn't as
come
clean.
near it. You can't come near the amount of sodium. So it's a challenge. So we'll have to figure out what we do
Yeah.
with that one.
Yeah. So Jenna, what's on the horizon for Act for Healthy Kids? Anything cool coming up this year? Any more programs?
Well, one of the really amazing things about recognition awardees is that they get invited to our summits that we have. We had one last year, and we have another one coming up in October. So we invite all of the awardees, expenses paid, to our Healthy Meals Summit. This year, we're looking to really pack the house, even more than last year. We hope to have over 1,000 school nutrition professionals and come together. They'll do professional learning. We'll have great keynote speakers. But really, it's an awesome opportunity for them to network with each other, learn from each other. We'll have them highlight their awesome programming through sessions, and we'll have an interactive expo. So that's what we're gearing up for now, is just trying to get as many people to apply for those awards as possible. Not just to come to the summit, but it is certainly a nice perk. They have through July to apply for the recognition awards. And as I said earlier, we have lots of different categories. So there's something in there for everybody. And then if they're available in October, they can come join us at the summit to celebrate that success.
So where do they go to apply or to get more information?
Yeah, so they can go to healthymealsincentives.org, and everything is right there that they'll need to apply and learn more about the program.
And is this upcoming summit going to be in the same location as it was last year?
That's right, yes.
So Las Vegas?
Las Vegas.
So I was invited to go. Thank you, by the way, because you played a part in that. And it was an awesome experience. I was kind of thinking it was just going to be just like another show, just another event, another conference. But it was so much more than that. Like the way that you guys were honoring the recipients was amazing. The classes were amazing. The networking was great. And I know some people think that, oh, it's in Vegas, it's going to be a big party. Well, it wasn't that. Like, it was so much more. Like, I could actually see, I was watching directors receive value out of being there. And that's something I don't always see when I go to a conference. So you guys did an amazing job. And I can't wait to see what you guys do this upcoming year.
Thank you. Yeah, I really do feel like we have an amazing team working on this grant, and we worked very hard to make this summit different because we know there are so many conferences and so many things that school meal professionals can choose to go to, and we wanted it to be impactful, and we really thought long and hard about what would be best for them coming and make it meaningful for them.
Yeah, you guys did. You guys knocked it out of the park. So, Shani, what's new for you guys coming up this year? Any big plans?
Well, as far as what we're doing, well, in our last podcast, I was sharing with you that we are currently working through our centralization of the student nutrition department. So we are still on the road. We're taking on new schools. It's been a learning road. I'll say that, but one that is the right thing. We have come a long way when it comes to our leadership development, and we are continuing to focus on that, continuing to focus on building our managers as leaders and providing them the tools, not just the training. We've started with the training, but it really is more hand-holding and situational leadership type stuff that we've really been focusing on. We're also continuing to diversify our menu. That was something that I mentioned earlier, doing more partnerships with the community to try to get more celebration menus like Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month. We did try a halal turkey dinner for our Thanksgiving and our winter break or winter holiday meal. So we do have some students that practice halal, And we're all learning. We're all learning about that and what that entails, because we get more and more requests that our menu represent our students. So we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go.
Yes, you do.
But we've come a long way, and I'm really excited at the progress. But learning is hard. I will say about the leadership part, that's hard. It's hard work. And but it's a good investment. I think what we're doing will be very valuable for many years. But
yeah, I agree. I feel like every time I talk to you, this now being the third time on the podcast at least, there's always some next step that you've accomplished, and there's a next step that you're making. So you're always moving forward, and I love that. Love it so much. So I guess that's it. I appreciate you guys so much for being on the podcast. Jenna, I know we've been trying to make this happen for a long time. I love what your organization is doing. Shani, of course, I'm a huge fan of you from day one. And just thank you both for everything that you guys have been doing for school meals for kids across the country. It's not just local here, because you're inspiring districts all over the country. And I appreciate that. And thank you for hanging out with me today, chatting.
thank you so much.